Hello and welcome to the third episode of Monitoring Java Applications on Azure. Today we will be talking all about application performance monitoring. Thank you very much to all of you for joining in this session. Please check in on today's event if you have not already done so. The check-in link is on the screen, which is aka.ms/reactor check-in, and the event ID is 14779. You can also scan the QR code. It will take you straight to the check-in page. And I'll also be adding the check-in information on the chats. So by checking in, I repeat, you get access to all the resources and learning parts after the event. My name is Rav, and I'm the program manager at Reactor London. For upcoming sessions, please visit our Microsoft Reactor website. Please note that this event will be available to watch on demand, so it is being recorded, and it will be available to watch on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. Before we get into the session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, and be kind and considerate in the way you engage. Again, today we have with us the amazing Rory and Trask. Rory will be leading the session, and obviously Trask will join in a little bit later. So hi, Rory, how are you feeling today?
No, I'm great. It's a bit dark here, and I'm sundowning a little bit, but I've had enough caffeine to get me hyped up and really excited. This is an incredible topic, and this is actually the number one topic that developers have asked Microsoft to focus on for Java development. So I'm really excited, and I've got some interesting things to show you. Dynamic threshold alerting, application performance monitoring with end-to-end transaction, and so many nice little graphs and doohickeys there that we're going to do. So the first thing I want to introduce you is to Trask. He's one of the senior principals that I look up to for the incredible work that they're doing on their engineering platform. And Trask is going to lead the first session there with application end-to-end performance monitoring. And then I'm going to show you some stuff. I tried to break Azure a couple of times with my alerting. I'm going to show you how I did manage to break it, and then we're going to end off altogether then. So over to you, Trask.
Awesome.
Thanks, Rav. Thanks, Rory. So I will share my screen, and we'll get right into some demos. So let's start I want to start with showing you Application Insights Java, how you can add this to any application that you have and get application performance management information, your requests, your SQL queries, your performance, your distributed trace map really easily. So to start with Application Insights Java, this is a Java agent. And so you add it to your command line when you start up any Java application, and it will automatically instrument the libraries and frameworks that you're using. Many of the most of the common libraries and frameworks, and so you will and it will push all of that telemetry to the Azure portal, and you'll get insight into your application. So let me start with let's start with just again the Spring Pet Clinic app. So let's find Spring Pet Clinic, and just to show you that you can do this literally with any application, Java application that you want. I'm going to copy that. We will just clone it and build it. Well, skip tests to I trust the tests will pass. And once we build this, the Spring Pet Clinic is built into a jar file that you can run with java-jar. And then I will show you how to integrate application insights into it. All right, we had to pull down a bunch of new dependencies. So typically, right, you would run this java-jar. It's been built by Maven under the target. So Spring Pet Clinic would start up. And then we could hit it locally. What I want to show you now is how to pull in Application Insights Java agent, how to hook that in. So if we go back to the download link, let's copy that, and let's download that. A little bit of just curl, you can pull it down however you like. So now we see we have this agent jar file in our directory. And so hooking it into our running app is as simple as adding one JVM arg here, Java agent, application insights agent jar, and we run it. As you can see, didn't quite do it right. No problem. It told us what the problem was. Of course, I haven't told it where to send the data to. What is my application insights resource where I want to send the data and view the data in. So let's go and create that resource. So let's create a new resource for application insights. What do I have here? I think I have, let's use Spring, have a resource group, Spring Pet Clinic Sugar, named after another of my pets. We'll name this. And great. So now that we've created this, let's give it a second to actually create. Awesome. So we can go into that resource now. And what we need is this connection string. The connection string tells the Java agent where to send the information. So we will just copy that, and the way that we tell there's a couple ways of telling it. You can, we will do it via environment variable. And then paste that in here. We can also set up a JSON configuration file that contains this. There's a lot of other options that you can add in the JSON configuration file. For example, there's custom JMX metrics that you want to capture, dial in sampling rates, a lot of other features, all in this, the application insights documentation here. I will dump a link to this into chat later. And so let's now try to run it again now that we have a connection string. And we see we've started the agent successfully. So let's go and confirm that. So live metrics is a great way to just quickly confirm that we have hooked this up correctly to the right resource. Let's go and, okay, yes, so we are getting live metrics. We're seeing memory. If we hit the Spring Pet Clinic app on our local server, we should see those requests coming in. Awesome. So this, if you remember from week 1, I showed the app services, how to connect application insights to app services, Azure App Services. So let's hop back there for a minute. And I think I named that one after Onyx. So here was our app services. And if you remember, for app services, to enable the application insights Java instrumentation, all we did was click a button. And so what you can see, what we just did was essentially the steps that are happening here behind the scenes, where when you do this one click in app services, it creates the application insights resource. It sets up the connection string. It adds the JVM arg pointing to the Java agent that app services has stored locally. And then over time, it will keep that Java agent up to date, so that you will just automatically get be up to date, have a recent version of the Java agent running. So that's how to set up Application Insights Java. Let's go a little bit deeper into now what the data it provides. And if you remember last week, we went through Rory's Azure monitoring Java lab. And we created, remember we opened up the shell, we created, and we deployed the Azure Spring Cloud resources. So let's go, and I have, that one was Perl. And so over here, and this is another example similar to app services, where application insights is tightly integrated. So you don't need to do even those simple steps of installing the Java agent and hooking up the JVM arg and creating the resource. So in this case, let's dive into this data, because it's a pretty cool demo, because as you see here, it actually spins up 5 different nodes talking to each other. So you can really understand kind of the power of monitoring here. It's hard sometimes in a single simple pet clinic app to see really the benefit of all of this monitoring capability, but obviously most applications in the real world consist of multiple services. So you can really see how everything is interconnected. You can, if it pulls up like this in kind of a jumbled mess, I highly recommend the this layout here. Kind of helps to see the flow better to me. And then, yeah, you can drill in here. You know, we've got some errors here. Drill in, we can look at the failures. We can look at sample telemetry for those specific failures. What were the specific requests? What was the actual exception that was generated? So it makes it really easy to navigate through all of this data that is being collected automatically now. So other places that are really handy to kind of key into, one is the failures page. And so this will be where you can go and look at, the exceptions that are being generated. And then the performance page, which will give you a sense of, broken down by the different operations in your application, how much they're hit and what their performance is. And then again, you can drill into specific transactions. And I love this view. This is an end-to-end transaction for a single request that came in through the API gateway, filtered down through this service, calling this service, and then calling the downstream database, making downstream database queries, which you can then drill into and see the actual SQL queries that were run. So this is very much like that application map is like an aggregated picture, and this is how a single request happened to trace through all of those nodes. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is tying into what I showed last week of log analytics. So within Application Insights, you also have this logs tab, this logs page, which is using the same Custo query language. It's using log analytics behind the scenes to store and query all of this data. But now you have all of the data that the Java agent, all of the raw data that the Java agent sent to Azure, that you can query on however you like. So while these views are built up from that data, and in a lot of cases, you can actually drill into you can actually take the queries that were used to build these components, these user experiences, and you can drill in and see the actual query and then customize that and run it and chart it and pin it to your dashboard. But you can do really anything you want. So for example, say the requests. So kind of the key tables over here. One is requests. If we kind of explore that a little bit, let's maybe scope that down. All right, let's give that another second. So like last week, we looked at requests. We counted them by sort of different nodes that were being connected. So here we can, there we go. We can look at, let's say, this name. So one thing that's really nice, let's summarize count by name. Let's say by name. So what's nice here is that Application Insights will already categorize your requests with their routes so that you can kind of get a nice aggregation. And then we can, of course, chart, do the same things we did last week, have fun with the donut views, and again, pinning to the dashboard. Another important table is dependencies. So dependencies has all of your SQL queries, all of your outgoing HTTP requests. So again, we can kind of explore that data. We see we've got a type column here. So let's restrict that type equal SQL. And now we can see all of our SQL queries. And one thing that's cool here is, say we see a SQL query here that we're interested in, and we want to see more context about, about this query, like what was the request involved. We can take this operation ID and we can go over to the transaction search. Oops, let's go to the transaction search and search for that transaction. And now we can click into any of these and it will show us that end-to-end transaction view. So you have this really simple way of going from the raw data back to getting more context about that. And so the last two tables that I wanted to highlight here are traces and exceptions. So traces are your log data. So Application Insights instrumentation automatically captures logging from log4j, logback, and Java util logging. So you will get those traces, nice structured trace logs here. And so these are really nice for querying here. And also, again, you have the operation ID. So some of these log statements are from startup, so there's no active request, so there's no operation ID. But let's look at something where operation ID is not empty. And we can see, we could, again, take this operation ID. We could go and we could look at the full transaction, full trace across all the nodes that led to that, say, that error. And then again, we've got exception is the other table, which is corollary of traces. So if a log statement has an exception stack trace, it will be stored in the exceptions table. So again, we can do the same thing here. We can find some interesting exceptions that we want to drill into, and we can pull back out and see the bigger picture of why that exception happened. Awesome. So that was all that I wanted to show you today. Rory.
Trask, the problem is that every time I watch your sessions, I actually learn something. And the problem of that is that I'm the person who creates the documentation, and I'm learning stuff. And I loved when you showed me the log back, and I'm going to go in and test that there. So thanks so much. And I'm going to take it from here. I am going to attempt to share my screen there. There we go. Share my screen. And you want to see this little screen. Now, I'm going to take what Trask did there, and I'm going to try to show you stuff that I broke today. And you can see this is the same Azure Spring Cloud instance with the pet clinic, and I've got my customer service here. If I zoom out here, you can see customer service, but there's a little bell there, and it says 7 alerts. And I'm going to show you exactly what happened, because part of application performance monitoring is setting up alerts and metrics and queries that can actually go in and do something and trigger something. So I've got 30 minutes to convince you that you wanted to use alerts for your systems and how to actually go in and set those up. So first of all, I've spent the last 3 days trying to break it in every way possible, and I'm going to show you how I managed to break it. So if I click through here on the customer service, you see there, I've got a nice little window there that says view in logs, and it shows you the slowest request by name and the investigate points. But I've got another one there saying view alerts. And when I click through view alerts here, I've actually got alerts here. And each one of those alerts are now categorized according to the severity that I picked them up. So before I go into these, I want to show you exactly what I did and the basics of alerts and metrics and how I got to that. So I've got a nice little slide deck that I'm going to show you here. And then we're going to go through that and discuss exactly how I managed to break that. So first, what is a metric? So a metric, and we've spoken this in the last 3 sessions. A metric really is you can have multiple different type of metrics. You can have live metrics, you can have built-in metrics, and you can have custom metrics. So the standard metrics are anything that Spring Boot registers as its core metrics. You can have Java Virtual Machine, CPU metrics, Tomcat metrics, logback metrics, which what Charles just showed you, and you can also see metrics contributed by Spring Boot apps, Spring Cloud modules, and dependencies there. There are a lot of metrics that are baked in. And the module that I authored there, you can actually go in there and we show you how to create the app CPU usage there and create these nice little graphs there with the metrics. We also have custom metrics. Now, custom metrics are anything that isn't non-standard, and they are turned on by either enabling Microsoft or third-party tools or your own code. You can use guest OS metrics are triggered in that. You can use application insights, SDKs. You can use container insights solutions, or even REST APIs. And with over here, you can see that's the Spring Cloud metrics. And in there I've got the Pet Clinic Pet app. And this is how many times the app was called over a period of time, and then I've superimposed that over the owner service and also the custom service there. So you can kind of get all of your custom metrics to show you anything as part of metrics. Then we also have live metrics. And live metrics, you can access that on the live metrics view there, and that's great for validating fix, for getting exception traces, experimenting with filters, so you can filter each one of these and drill down into them. And this is a nice way to actually say, wait a second, what am I doing right now? Because some of the metrics that you get with the custom metrics and the other metrics are only really triggered at certain intervals. With live metrics, they're triggered on the fly. Once you have your metrics, you also want to see what are my servers doing at the time. So you can get live metrics for servers. And this is great for watching the effects of test loads. So each one of these servers, so you can see, are they experiencing load on the requests, failed requests, dependency, CPU, memory, and you get the server view, and it's a nice little view there for each of the individual servers. So how do these metrics work, and why are they triggered? So got a nice little animation here. So first of all, they wake up periodically. With metrics, unless you've got the live metrics view, they only wake up when you have a threshold or a trigger that is going to do that. So sometimes you might have them on a schedule, and usually they only get triggered like once every few seconds or few minutes. So they wake up periodically and they get the metric value. So the CPU, memory, custom metrics, live metrics, then they compare against a threshold. And if the threshold that you set is of a certain level, then what happens is they're going to trigger a notification. Now, this is something that is sounding a little bit like an alert. So these are metric alerts. So you wake up periodically with your metrics, you get your metric value, you compare them against a threshold that you've set up, and then if the state changes, then you're going to trigger a notification. Else, go back to sleep. And then rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. So now your metrics don't only become something static that you're going to put on a dashboard, they actually can perform an action. And the action is as wide and as broad as what you want it to do. So let's look now at how you set up your log alerts from these metrics. Now that we know that we can take our metric and we can wake it up and set a threshold. So we've got our target resource, and it's called a signal. So our metric now becomes a signal. So the CPU or the concurrent session count becomes a signal, and that signal can be static or dynamic. And then you have a logic test to say, hey, listen, if it is above 50% CPU, then do an action. So send it to an action group, and it's an action to do, and then monitor the condition and set the alert state. So that is done in a combination of Kusta query, periodic execution, and a result analysis. So everything really is a Custo query deep down underneath there. All these kind of signals are really Custo query because they all go through to a database somewhere. And then the Custo query kind of bubbles them up and says, run this periodically, check a condition. And then when you have an action to do, go check your action group. And now an action group might be an email, might be an SMS or a webhook. And then you've got a monitor condition, set it on an alert state. And that's that little the bell icon on my customer service. And it's saying, listen, you've got an alert state. Something didn't go right. And now we're going to set that alert state either critical or informational. And that is a log alert. So let's look at how you can set your log alert rules. And those are the conditions. So you have to specify a resource, a specific Azure resource to monitor. In this example here, we've got a resource there, and that is a portal resource there in a fictitious Contoso Corp resource here. So, and the condition there is whenever the custom log search is greater than 100 count. But Rory, what you're saying to me is that I don't have to be a CPU or a memory. I can actually do it on any custom log search. Yes, because underneath there's a Custo query. So you can actually go in and I'm going to show you in the example, the demo that I do. You can either use the standard metrics, you can use a custom metrics, or you can use a log metrics or anything actually to go in and trigger your condition. And then finally, you've got your action and notification, automation, email, SMS, web hook, and so on. So you can see here, here's your action here, and you can see that I can email it. And then I'm going to set the alert status. You can see there's severity 3, enable rule upon creations, and then that little kind of confusing word there, suppress. And we're going to go through exactly what suppression means. Because suppression really means that, listen, I know that there's an alert, but sometimes I don't want to do an alert. Like, let's just say on a weekend period, I know that, there might not be as much traffic. So if I don't get much traffic then, and normally I have a traffic alert, then don't do it on the weekend. And you suppress that alert to make sure you don't get false positives. So what can you alert on? And we covered this briefly, though. You can alert on metrics, on logs, and any data source really in monitoring. So signals included, you can do metrics values, log search queries, activity log events. So every time I shut down my Spring Cloud cluster and bring it up, that's called an activity log event. And I can actually alert on that and set an alert event. So maybe I don't want my cluster to be shut down, or it accidentally gets shut down. And I can send that through an email to the administrators to say, listen, someone accidentally shut down the cluster, go alert, make it a Sev 5, and do something about it. And you can also have tests for website availability. So dynamic threshold, this is really eye candy. So why are dynamic thresholds useful? What are they? So every metric has a pattern. Now, if it has a pattern, then I can tell you on a weekday, if it hits a certain level, then the next weekday it might hit another level, and on the weekend it might hit a different level. Now, if I do that rinse and repeat for a certain number of weeks, I can start to look at a pattern. And I can tell you with AI what you could predict around that. And so you can have monitoring multiple time series needed different custom tailored thresholds for each time series. And as a result, those time series allow you to look at historical patterns for the metric, and you learn from the new data. And you can then adjust and set your alerts for the dynamic thresholds and do things like this. So you can go in and set a graph and say, wait a second, if it exceeds the norm of here, make an alert. So over here, we've got a little alerting threshold. And you can see here, the blue, that is the actual measured metric over time. So it might go up and then down and then up again. Now, the allowed range for the metrics is exactly what I'm going to set to say, listen, I will allow you to go above that level. So if the CPU spikes to 100%, that's never a good thing. But if it spikes to 1% and normally it's 0%, then don't worry about that. And that's the allowed range for the metric. Then I've got the dark red there that is a alert fired. So as it's starting to progress up there, that's the alert active range there that I want to start firing for my dynamic alerts. Now understand that all of this is done with AI, and it's created without me actually setting what the thresholds are. And I'm going to show you exactly in the demo how easy it is to do this. But you set the active alerting threshold there, and then it's going to resolve itself there, or you can do auto resolve. So as the threshold gets there, it's going to set a fire off alert, and then it when it gets into that level, it's going to resolve it. It's still going to set that little bell there, but you're not going to get a blink, 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 and you're not going to have to go and resolve it yourself. You can also get the individual aggregated metric values, and you hover over that. And this is available everywhere that you set the static alerts on all of the setups, even your log queries. You can set up dynamic alerts there and proceed through that. So you've got your dynamic alerts there, you've got your static alerts, and then you've got your alerting dashboard. In this example there, we've got 0 to 4, quite a lot of alerts. I want to speak to the team that is managing that. And then you've got the new alerts, which are ones that haven't necessarily been acknowledged, ones that have been closed, and you've also got the ones, and you get states of fired and acknowledged. So once you put all of this together, and we covered this in week 1, you can create a sample alert management workflow. So you've got define your actionable alerts. You might want to use metrics or logs. You might want to use smart detection. So Azure actually has built-in, baked-in alerts called smart detection. So if, let's just say, your dependencies aren't behaving, your database, the alerts will automatically detect that your dependencies aren't behaving and fire off some alerts. And these are called smart detection alerts. You also want to set your severity or your description, and then you've got your definition for your alert. So then you want to define auto scaling and automatic run books linked into your alerts. So do you want to suppress those? So if you want to suppress those on a weekend, let's just say you know that the CPU might be a little bit flat, and you want to make sure that, maybe an alert says that you should be running at 2% CPU. So suppress it there on a weekend. Else, no, you might want to go to an auto remediation. So auto remediation says my servers aren't managing. Run an auto scaling script with a webhook that actually goes in and scales up. If no, can you auto remediate? If no, then we go to the next step. If yes, just send an email notification to say it has been solved. So if no, then you're going to go in, you're going to fill in a bug there, custom emails, and you're going to go into IT management, and you're going to do all of those remediation steps, and maybe do a logic app workflow, a webhook there. And if it's very high severity, you're going to get an SMS, a push, a voice, and use chat ops to go wake up the corporate vice president and say, listen, Azure is down, Azure Spring Cloud is down, wake up, wake up. And then you're going to also define your action rules at scales and make sure that your system is really operational. So I've got a nice little demo that I'm going to show you, and it's going to make it a lot more sense. So all of these demos are available if you want to go to and try them out now. So you can go aka.ms, and this is the alerts with Azure Spring Cloud, and helps you set up the demo there to go in with the a nice little demo with Azure Spring Cloud. If you want to do the full example there that I'm going to do there, you can go into aka.ms/monitor-java, and you can follow me on this example here on how to set up your Azure Spring Cloud alert. So let's start first. I'm going to go back into my little portal. I'm going to show you how to set up an alert there. So I've got a few alerts, and we'll come back to that a little bit later, and how to set up your alerts. So first of all, I'm going to go into my Azure Spring Cloud. Now, there's two ways that you can set up alerts, but we're going to use Application Insights. So Application Insights has a lot of telemetry. There's also the alerts that are baked into the standard kind of Azure Spring Cloud, but those are really basic alerts, and we're not going to really cover them in this session here. So we're going to go to Application Insights. Remember, the demo sets this up for you automatically, so you don't have to really worry about it. And Trask really covered on the power of Application Insights. So we're going to go into Application Insights here, and then on the left-hand side, you see there that there's alerts and metrics, logs, workbooks. So if you go into metrics, you can set up your log-based metrics here. Let me make that a little bit smaller here. And you get your standard metrics. And remember, these metrics can feed into a log alert. And we're going to kind of do that and play around with that. And we're going to see, can we actually get a metric feeding into a alert? And can we trigger that? And we're going to look at how you can go through that. So first, you can see here, select the metric above there. So in our scope, we've got the log-based metrics, Application Insights standard metrics, and then also custom metrics. So if I go into log-based metrics, you get some standard basic metrics here. You get the browser-based metrics, custom metrics here, and it goes through a lot of the built-in metrics here. And we can see that we've got process CPU, system CPU count, but it's not really the Spring Cloud metrics and not necessarily the ones that we want to see here. So you can play around with these, but I want to go into the application, the custom application insights metrics here. When I go into here, I get a lot of nice little metrics here. Not only that, but I get some metrics here called Pet Clinic Pet. And this is how many times my service is actually called. I like that. So I can go in there and I can see there's the owner metrics here, and I can click that, and I can see I've been calling that a few times recently, just in the last 2 hours there, and I can click through there, and I can see that I've been calling that 18 times, and this is over a period. You can also go average count, so yeah, 120 times. You can go to sum. The sum is quite a good indicator, and I've been really stress testing this. So let's leave it on sum there, and I've got my my metrics view here, so I can go into, and now I'm going to add another metric there. So I'm going to go into and we've added the pet owner, so I can go into the visit metrics there, and I want to go into sum also for visit metrics, and I haven't really done any visit metrics there. And then I can go, let's go click there, and then I can also add a metric there for the, let's go back there for, I think it's the owner one that we're missing. No. So visit metric there. No, not visit. It is pet metric there, and we want to go sum. So you can see the only ones that I really hit there is the owner metric. And I know because I've been like stress testing this, and I've got 6,000 views there. And you can apply a line chart there. You can apply an area chart there. You can go through all of that. You can apply splitting there. But the nice little thing there is I can go new alert rule. So if I click on that, the alert rule, I can go, wait a second, whenever the sum pet clinic is greater than, or the sum pet clinic visit is greater than, or pet is greater than, then I can trigger an alert. Now, this is costed, so this is just a very an estimate cost, though. So this runs a Kusto query underneath that for a condition, and this will run against my static thresholds. So if I click on that, I can actually define the condition there, and I can say I can do static. Now, this is a log query here for signals. So I can't do dynamic, but I can go greater than, and it'll tell me exactly what I need to do there. So I'm going to say, if I want to add for my owner service, I'm going to go give me greater than, let's just say 10. So if I go greater than 10, and my granularity, I can do every minute, frequency of evaluation every minute there, and done there. I can also do the same for the other services here, and then I'm going to go in there, threshold value 10 also, and greater than, okay, so that's 1 minute then, done also here. And then finally for the pet clinic, the pet service there, 10 and done. And then I can go in and say, what is the action I want to take? So now I'm going to get an alert if over a period of 1 minute, if it's called more than 10 times. So, and I'm going to have an action group that is going to be called. Now I've set up an action group here that I previously was playing around with called CPU RPZA, and that action group really just goes in and triggers if I go into manage action group, you'll see there that I can actually go in there and manage my action group there. And what does it actually do? It goes in and just sends an alert to me, and I've got my little app, my Android app that can do that. So I'm going to call this there traffic on Azure Spring Cloud service, and I can just call that also their description, and then I can set up the severity. Now there's a lot of traffic. I don't need to say that this is a verbose or warning. It's just informational, and I might want to just send it through to a dashboard somewhere and to say that there is traffic. So I don't want to make it into a severity, and I want to enable alert rule upon creation, and I want to automatically resolve the results. So as soon as there is traffic or there isn't traffic, it's just going to take. Now I can go and create the rule. So that's how you create a rule, and it's the simplest rule that I can show you. And it's just going to create a traffic, and I can get the custo query around this. So once this is done, I can actually get and show you the custo query, and it's basically just summing that through that there, and I can go through that. Now I can go back into my alerts here, and click that, and now my alerts on my application insights has been created, and I can add traffic onto that, and I should get some results. But I've already gone in and created a few alerts for you, and we don't have to worry about that because we don't really have time to create massive amounts of traffic with that. So I'm going to go into my alerting here. First of all, I want to show you the alert that we created. So if I go into alert rules, and then you'll see here that under my alert rules, then I've got traffic on Azure Spring Cloud. I can click that and I can see that the alert rule is there, where all of that is there, and I can make modifications for that. But I've already got some alert rules that are running here. I've got a customer request count that I've set up. I've also got a customer app count. So let's look at these and see exactly what I did there. So the first one I want to show you, this is the niftiest one, is on the customer service. I've set up a dynamic request there to say whenever the count of the cloud gateway requests, the Spring Cloud Gateway is greater than or less than a dynamic threshold. So if I click through that, what is a dynamic threshold? In the last 6 hours, I've been measuring it and testing results. Then you can see there, I've got my dynamic threshold, and I've set the dynamic threshold to have a high threshold sensitivity. So and whenever it goes above that, the threshold sensitivity of what it's normally used to, you can see there what the threshold is there. It's going to trigger an alert. And now this, it does this automatically. I didn't have to really tell it what a high threshold is, what a low threshold is. It just, you go in there and you set dynamic there. Instead of static, you go in and you set the granularity period. Now, every time it's going to hit a high usage for the Spring Cloud Gateway, it's going to trigger that alert. So let's go look in and look at that alert rules and see if did it trigger for that alert. So let's see here. We've got informational. And let's go see our alert rules there. And we want to see, did that trigger alert there? Because I actually pushed like 1 million transactions there. So I'm quite sure that the dynamic alert actually it did trigger there. So yeah, there's the request count there. And you can see there that it auto-resolved it. The alert state is new because it auto-resolved it because it put on the auto-resolve limit, and then it triggered a high request count, and when it came down, then it actually resolved it. So here's my request count that I set up. I think it's request count or it's custom request count there. So let's go. No, I think it's customer request count. Let's go back in there. That's the automatic the threshold there. Yes, why did this alert fire? There we go. Why did this alert fire? And then it'll give you that the results. There we go. Around that. So that's a different one. That's the log query version of that. And you can see why did it resolve? It is resolved right now. When did it actually fire? And it used the dynamic threshold there around it. So the alert sensitivity was high. And this was just to say, listen, there is some traffic there. You pop this on your dashboard, and then it auto-resolves. As soon as it comes down to the threshold, it will auto-resolve it. Now, I did the exact same for request count, except with a log query to show you exactly what it is. So here's it's auto-resolved also. But the log query here, I've actually viewed and created the query results. So I'm going to click through that view query results. Now, I've done the exact same that I did with that dynamic threshold, but I actually did it in a custo query. And now I can actually execute that log request there. And now I can actually go in and show you that it's all based on, and let's go into that query there. And you can see that there's the time limit there. And it actually resolves there to an aggregated value. So so that's the custo query equivalent for my request count. You can see there, that's what I've set up there. And that I got from my metric view. So I took that metric view for that pet clinic, and then I created a log alert there like we did before, and I got my request count with my log query. And the last one that I want to show you is a static query. So I showed you a log query, and I showed you a dynamic query, but we also have the standard kind of metric query that we have here. So for custom request count, though, so we've got the customer request count. So let's go into here. The app count. So let's go into here, and no, that's a query, that's a request query, and let's go request count. I think this is the dynamic one. Custom request count. There is a static one somewhere. I know that there's a static one here somewhere, and you can see I've been really busy today trying to break that. There's a customer app count there. So I think I've lost my, this is pretty nifty. In this one here, I've got a query here that I've actually got the page views for get owners, and that's kind of static there. So if I go into that, you can see it is resolved, and the customer app count. So let's look at this. This is a static query that I've run with a log, and getting the amount of views for each page, and this is called the customer app count. So whenever the total of custom log search is greater than 10. So in this example there, I've got a log query that is going to resolve to an alert, and I've got a sample query there, and then I've got a measure of item count. So all it's doing is though get the request where name is get owners. So every time I hit the owners query, it's going to actually get a count, and then I'm going to go measure item count and aggregation total over 5 minutes. And you can actually see there, statically, I've set it that if it's the threshold of value is greater than 10, and it gives me a nice little graph though. But this isn't the dynamic one. Remember, the dynamic one does everything for me. I've had to statically test it and create the total and the item count. So those are the 3 different ways that you can actually set up alerts. And then you get a nice little dashboard with all of those alerts. And then you can go in and you can process them. So my admin team might go into that and say, listen, I'm going to handle this. I'm going to get a call out, or maybe they're just informational. And you can go in and process them. Let's go and resolve some of those alerts, some of those that weren't necessarily resolved. So you can go into alerts here, and you can see there I've got informational 7. And I had a few, none of them errors, because I don't want to wake anyone up in the middle of the night. And I can click on all of them, and I can actually go in and change the state. You can see there, I can change the states. I can click on all of them, and I can go change the state. And I want to go acknowledged or close. I'm just going to close them all and save. Now they're all going to go save states there, and I don't have to worry about that. Now, there is a difference between the alert state and also the resolved state. So if they're dynamic and they go above a threshold and they resolve themselves, then they are resolved. Else they might be fired and also not actually resolved. You have to go auto-resolve them and auto-remediate them. We also have a new feature that we've just released called alert processing rules. Now, a lot of times you might want to resolve the state magically and say, listen, there is a action group that, depending on the state, kind of like a little workflow. Depending on the state, you might want to email a different action group. So depending on the state, email the management or the admins or the CEO based differently on that. And that's a great way to say you can apply an action group based on the rule that actually is triggered. So this is a customer processing rule here, and it's going to apply the action group based on the condition and whether it's fired. So you can see here the rule settings here, and then I'm going to apply the action group based on a certain level. And I can also do scheduling. So on a weekend, call the CEO or call the admin group there, or don't do that. So this is a new feature there called alert processing rule. And this is a new feature. It is in preview, public preview, and you can go and access it. So with all of these combined, you get a nice dashboard view that you can go in and see your alerts. You can access all of these through. Now let's go back into our little application map there. And now you can see that little bell there that we have there. And you can drill down into those custom alerts there. So if I go into my customer service, we know that we set up a few services there. We had dynamic alerts, log alerts, metric alerts there. And if I click through on customer service, it's going to bring up the a little alert service there. Eventually, let's drill down there. So let's click on that instance there. Let's go back, and I think I've gone a little bit. There we go. Let's go into that. Click on customer service there. There we go, view alerts, and you can drill down into that. So it's all in the application performance monitoring. You can set up your log alerts, your custom alerts, and also your metric alerts. So I am going to bring back the slide desk here. I just want to bring those views before I bring back Trask here. So we've got our views there, our demos. You can access all of those on Spring Alerts there. Let's go and play from current slides there. So we did our demo. We touched base on all the alerts on the application performance monitoring. So alerts with Azure Spring Cloud, you can go in and access Spring Dash alerts, and it will show you how to go in and use Azure Spring Cloud. And then the monitoring learn path, we've got monitor-java. And if I click through that, it's a great way to actually go through. It actually says skip verification. It goes through and see all of the nice demos that I've set up, and it sets up all of that, and you can start playing around with the monitoring alerts. So I'm going to bring back Trask now, and we're going to go through some of the other services that we discussed here. So Trask, you have to be impressed. I did manage to break stuff. I got some dynamic thresholds there, and I also get some log queries and metric queries. So tell me a little bit about the dynamic thresholds here. Why is it 3 days? So I had to wait. So 3 days before that, I set up my queries there. I did my Azure Spring Cloud, but then you have to wait 3 days to get enough of those little points. What are those points, and why do I have to wait 3 days?
Yeah, so it needs enough data to be able to predict with more accuracy. Otherwise, the whole thing with alerting, and I loved seeing all of there's so many features you showed, right? And it can feel overwhelming, but at the same time, alerting is so critical, and it's so critical to not, you have to adjust just the right amount of alerting, right? You don't want too little, or you miss out on important critical things that you need to be responding to. You don't want too much, or you get alert fatigue and you start ignoring all the alerts. So that's why there's so many different options for configuring those alerts, and why the dynamic threshold alerting needs more data before, so that it can try to not either under or overestimate and lead to missed alerts or alert fatigue, both of which are equally horrible.
I must admit, after those 3 days, I waited there and with bated breath, and then I put in like 1 million transactions there to see exactly what it is, and it worked very well. You saw there that I had the request count, and it said, "Whoa, there's a ping there that you're not supposed to be having that kind of threshold." But then it auto resolved itself after that, and I love that fact, saying, "Hey, listen, you've got huge traffic." But then the traffic kind of subsided there, and then the alert kind of auto resolves itself. And if you don't, then you get this kind of fired state without having that auto resolved. And then you can also set up webhooks for that. What is a webhook, and how can that help when you have a fired state and then to progress from there?
Yeah, so I mean, as you saw, like the basic alerting in monitoring has always been send out the alert to the pager, to the SMS, to the person who's on call. They have to, find their computer, wake up in the middle of the night, log into their VPN, and go look at logs, see what's the matter, decide, remember what they did the last time when that happened, and decide what to do. And so the future is, really around automating as much of that process as possible, because there's so many times where we know, based on, we can create these run books, we can create this automation that says, oh, okay, this is just a limit, we need to scale out, something like that. And then, you save a lot of developers waking up in the middle of the night, and so on.
Yeah, so I've also noticed that when I created my Azure Spring Cloud, it created smart processing alerts. So what happened was it created like 6 or 7 alerts for me that said dependency alert, resource alert, and it did a lot for me. And that was a really new feature. So before we leave, tell me a little bit about smart processing alerts.
I actually haven't. That was what I saw you demo was the first time I've seen that.
You learned from me. That is brilliant.
Yes,
So
yes.
that is great. Smart processing. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, today. Thank you, Rav and Trask. We're out of time today. We both learned from each other. We had fun doing it. I broke and then I fixed, and it fixed it for me though. And we'll see you next week. We're at the final session. We're going to show you end to end from front end and HTML all the way through to the database. You really don't want to miss next week because we're going to bring everything together. So thanks, everyone. Follow me on @Rory Preddy and Trask on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.